You know, things like this, initially I was under the impression that it wasn't meant for people like me, you know, to sit down with people like you, to have this conversation. But when I see a name like Kareem, I feel like this is for us. You know, we can have these conversations. My name is Kabir Qurban. We have our honorable guest, Kareem Allam, who's running for mayor of Vancouver with the Vancouver Liberals. You revived the name, started it, and it's amazing. I'm just curious, Kareem. It's people don't know you. Some people do, and the ones that do are supporting you. Some people they don't know enough about you, and they may be against it. But I want to hear from you. Where did you come from? How did you get to a position that you are in today?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It really means a lot to be able to share this stage, and the work that you've done to build the audience and to build the community that you have here really is a testament to the work that you've done and all the rest of the people here. My journey into politics really started in Sudan. In the late 60s, in a revolution, my mother lost her home and fled to Lebanon. And spent 2 years as a refugee before her papers cleared to come to Canada. She was raised here, she went to university here, and at one point she went back to Egypt and met my father. My father served in the Egyptian military. He fought in 2 wars, one in 67 against Israel and another one in 73. In 1973, he spent 11 months as a prisoner of war. He really instilled a sense of belief in me, as did my mother, about how important politics is. We take peace for granted. We take connectivity and respect for each other for granted, and those values really have carried me forward. I've spent 25 years of my career in public service. I've worked on Parliament Hill. I've advised ministers at the federal and provincial level. I was a policy director at the Vancouver Board of Trade. I served on multiple boards, from TransLink boards to Metro Vancouver boards. I was on the board of directors of the Fraser Health Authority, which is the second largest health authority in the country. But my commitment to public service really came from that experience that my parents had about how important it is to invest in our institutions and invest in our communities and to invest in each other. So that was really the start of the journey. But for me, putting my name on a ballot was never something that I ever thought of doing. I would definitely say that the caliber of people I served at the beginning of my career were at a much higher and more substantial level than towards the end of my career. And there is an element of self-sacrifice and service that I think we've lost from some of our leaders. And so as a result of that, I thought I'd take a shot at doing it myself.
Good for you. I think, you know, nonetheless, confidence is key in things like this. I want to ask Siraj 1 second. Can you just make sure that both of our microphones are peaking while we speak? It's always important to be safe.
Yeah, let's do that.
And yeah, so just I want to talk to you about local stuff.
Sure.
I'm an SFU alum.
Yes.
Tell me about that. You went to SFU here. What is it so important about supporting local students, you know, being active in just like local education environments?
Yeah, for all those UBC students out there, it should be noted that Simon Fraser University, I think since its inception, has produced more premiers and mayors than UBC has. So definitely our best and brightest.
You can see the UBC students, the crickets and the violins.
I'm seeing the UBC students and their grins. So I know, just a small little plug for my alma mater. But no, Simon Fraser University it was a great school. It was a great experience for me. It exposed me to so much. It's a very diverse student body, and it really did. And it really was a clearinghouse for a lot of my first interactions in politics in Canada. It's a very politically active campus. And it really has been a place where I think the faculty really have encouraged discourse. That discourse might not always be aligned, but it was a good testing ground for a lot of the issues that over the course of my career would become more prominent, whether it was related to energy and climate or health. Simon Fraser University students and faculty have really been on the front edge of a lot of that debate.
Okay, it's It's interesting. I'm going to jump straight into it because after you graduate university, you kind of start your public service. You know, not you in specific, everyone. That's if they get into this type of world. What kind of avenues did you step into to join this public service that you're talking about?
You know, I think for me, it starts with volunteering. It was volunteering on campaigns. It was volunteering in community, doing things like this. And you eventually find your voice, you eventually find that constituency, you eventually find those things that you become passionate about. And, you know, throughout your career, opportunities pop up and you decide to either capitalize them or not. For me, I left university for a brief amount of time because I had an opportunity to work on Parliament Hill. So I put my studies on hold, and I think in hindsight it was the right decision. It was the right decision. But yeah, it really does start in community, and it really does start with volunteering.
Okay. I want to jump right into it, man. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. You
Sure.
did something great. You something powerful. Great is a weird word. You did something powerful. You actually helped the current mayor win.
Yeah.
You have played a big role in that.
Yes.
A lot of people are angry that you're stepping against him, and a lot of people are confused as to why you're going against him. What is going on?
Yeah, I've run 40 campaigns throughout my career. I've won 36 of them, so I think I have a pretty good track record. When I joined the ABC team, I thought I was joining a broad-based centrist party that was interested in making decisions based on evidence, fact, and lived experience. Very shortly after Ken got elected, he took a very hard right turn. In a time where people like me, where a time when people in this city felt very vulnerable about the narrative politically as a result of what we were seeing with Donald Trump and what we're seeing with the Republican Party of the United States. And it was very easy for me to separate from ABC once I saw the direction he was taking. There wasn't a time during the campaign when I was working on him where I saw him rolling back on some of our most key and fundamental promises and rolling back on our key values. And so for me, I felt there was it was important for me to go out and speak out against that, and I did when it came to the Hastings decampment, but when it also came to a whole range of other issues too, that I felt he misrepresented himself on. It's tough in politics when you're working for another politician. They make decisions after you've supported them. I think
you could have left and joined a different party and fought for a council position and moved your way up, but you decided to start your own party.
And I could have just kept my mouth shut and done nothing and not speak up against him. But yeah, there was an element of my dissatisfaction with Ken. It did lead me to go around and look to see who could replace him for the next election, and I generally didn't think that there was anyone more qualified for the job than I was. And that's a decision voters will make. They will either agree or not.
All right. So since you're talking about the voters are very curious to know about what we're going to do with the housing crisis. In the past year, we noticed that, rent didn't go up quite that much. But what we did notice is a lot of jobs and a lot of people are stressed financially. And this directly impacts their housing situation. What are some of the strategies that you are willing to implement to support your local Vancouverites?
Yeah, so first let's talk about housing and then we'll talk about jobs, but the two are connected.
Yes.
On housing, Vancouver is the slowest place on planet Earth in approving housing. It takes 8 years to build a high-rise here in the city of Vancouver. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy said he was going to put a man on the moon. And 8 years later, the Americans put a man on the moon, and that's how long it takes to build a high-rise in Vancouver. To me, that's unacceptable. The thing that's holding us back in terms of our housing approval process here in Vancouver are two things. One, we're the only municipality in the Lower Mainland that has, or in Western Canada, that has its own building code. Our building code is complex and is very difficult to navigate and requires a tremendous amount of specialization. And it also limits competition. The second issue is this. About 15 years ago in the city of Vancouver, whether you were building a factory, a store, or housing, at any level of density, it was all approved in one department. Today, whether you're a private sector builder, a public sector builder, or a not-for-profit builder, there are 12 departments of the city of Vancouver that have a veto on your project. We need to get those departments back into one. going back and forth between departments, where one department says windows have to be 4x4 to maximize energy efficiency, and the other one says, it's the fire department, says, oh, the windows have to be 6x6 because we need to be able to get our firefighters in with their equipment. The negotiations that home builders are having to do between different departments is insane. We need to get it back into one department.
Okay. And
so that's on housing.
Specifically with the Villages plan, that would have opened 17 low-density areas to 6-story buildings. 1,000 written comments, mostly opposed by council, but also they ended up pausing their own 6+ policy after neighborhood backlash. Where do you stand on this build everywhere or neighborhood consent? There's no safe answer, I understand, but where do you stand on this?
Well, the first problem with the Villages plan was the lack of consultation with community. Ken Sim and ABC over the course of the last 4 years have reduced the opportunities for community to input into these plans. And so that's where I think a lot of the backlash came from. But the second thing is the Villages plan also contradicts other existing plans that we have. So you have 17 villages that we're now going to create over 22 neighborhoods that have 22 neighborhood plans. But then he also approved this thing called the Vancouver plan, or an ODP, which upzoned housing on the major arterials in the city. In some aspects of the Villages plan where it said maximum 6 stories, the Vancouver ODP says you could go to 20 stories. So it was generating a lot of conflict and confusion. It was a plan that didn't really have a lot of thought. But my biggest issue with the Villages plan is this. We need more housing. We need more density. We need more places to get people out of living in basements and living in inappropriate housing. But we're not going to be able to accommodate all this density if we're not creating more libraries, more swimming pools, creating more spaces at community centers. What we're seeing is a massive increase in the number of people living in this city without a commensurate increase in the services that make the city livable. We're seeing library hours shrink at a time when the city budget keeps growing. How's that possible? How does that make the city more livable? So one of the problems with the Vancouver Villages plan is it didn't consult with the school board. So you're going to have 17 new villages with all these people moving in. But
where are they going to go to school? I'm a high school teacher, so this definitely affects.
So where are they going to go to school? They're not adding more park space. They're not adding more spaces for community centers. So in the summertime, when those kids get out of school, where are they going to go? Pool spaces are becoming really, really crowded in the city. So in order to be able to come up with a densification plan, you also need to come up with a plan for all the other adjacent services that make a city livable, and it just didn't exist with this plan.
So talking about Vancouver, and a lot of people claim to be Vancouverites. Yeah. They live in Surrey, they live in Chilliwack even as a stretch, but they consider themselves as Vancouverites. And when you discuss housing, it really is a multi-municipality approach. Are you planning on discussing with other mayors and other municipalities on how we could tackle this together? Absolutely.
One of the things that we've seen with Ken and ABC is he has the lowest attendance record of any mayor in recent memory at council meetings. I think his attendance record is less than 36%. His attendance record at Metro Vancouver and Transit meetings is even lower. So his opportunities to connect with other mayors aren't happening. You're absolutely right. We cannot start planning for housing as a region in isolation of one another. One of the big things that is a priority for me is SkyTrain. So going back to one of your original questions on jobs, it is my goal, it is my number one priority to get the SkyTrain line from Arbutus all the way out to UBC. We need to connect Western Canada's largest research center with Western Canada's largest employment center by rail. And then I want to annex UBC, and I want to plan for a new innovation corridor to create jobs.
But this is coming from an SFU student.
And this is coming from an SFU student. UBC is creating an incredible amount of IP, and it's not being connected with the investors and the technologists that are working in our downtown core. It's critical that we have that. Beyond that, UBC is the second largest commuter destination in the Lower Mainland. There is no bigger opportunity to get cars off of roads than building that SkyTrain line. Getting cars off of roads is good for climate, but it's also good for a goods movement corridor. The largest employer in the Lower Mainland is our transportation sector. 1 in 12 jobs in the Lower Mainland are related to trucking, the port, the airport, or rail. Getting cars off of roads makes our good movement corridors more efficient so we can be more competitive with the Port of Seattle and be more competitive against the Port of LA. And we are losing traffic to those other ports. So investing in SkyTrain is good for climate, It's also part of our housing strategy because you can densify along those lines, but it's also my number one job strategy.
Okay. You spoke a little bit about the port. The port moves $350 billion in trade, and the RBT2 promises about 17,000 jobs and 50% more container capacity. But the port isn't under the city's command. Now, how does a mayor in Vancouver, and how do you make a promise to the residents that you're actually going to stand up for them when it comes to conversations of the mouth of the city here?
We can't legitimately go out and expect that the Port of Vancouver is going to succeed if we don't get cars off of the roads and we don't have a transit plan accompanying it. My priority will be that UBC SkyTrain line to get those cars off roads. The second priority is we need to get cars off the roads in Surrey as well too, thinking from a regional perspective. King George Highway is now the densest part of the province without rapid transit. So in order to make the port function, we need to get those cars off of roads and we need to build SkyTrain. Having a plan to expand the port without expanding transit is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for congestion. So you need a mayor who, when they pick up the phone and call the premier and pick up the phone and call the prime minister, know that call is going to be answered, that mayor that's making that phone call is going to be respected, and that those two other leaders, when they're receiving my phone call, know that I can deliver my end of the bargain.
I live in Guildford, and it takes me less time to get to my office here in downtown East Side than it does to get to South Surrey. So really, I really hear you here. Like I said, I'm a school teacher, and I teach all over. I'm a substitute, and it gives me the privilege, I see it as, to hear the problems of the youth. Youth unemployment sits near 13% nationally, while Vancouver rents still outruns starting salaries. What's the city's role in a job market that's shutting out its own graduates?
Yeah, I think the number for youth unemployment in Vancouver might actually even be higher than the national average. But again, we've ceased to think in a really cogent way about what the future of Vancouver's economy looks like. There was a time when I first graduated from university that Vancouver was the third largest corporate head office center in Canada. We're now fifth behind Calgary and Edmonton. There is an element of our economy that's still connected to the resource sector and is still connected to industrial age economy, but we've done nothing as a region to plan our digital future. We're operating in a regulatory framework that was invented in the 50s and the 60s, and we're messing around the outer edges of that regulatory process without understanding that we probably need to blow up how we regulate business in order to enable that tech sector. And again, for me, the innovation that's coming out of UBC and SFU, we're not connecting the capital with the IP, and we're missing on huge opportunities.
Now, I'm gonna stop you right there because you said the digital future. We're in it right now. AI data centers are being built here in Mount Pleasant that people are worried about. You know, we're hearing conversations of water being depleted. We're hearing AI is going to take over, and this is a big concern. And you know, frankly enough, I'm gonna be an honest person. Every single person that's concerned of this has their own chatbot, probably running all the time. And I want you to try to tackle this with a coherent manner, because a lot of us are scared, we're confused, and we're using the tools. We're going to benefit from them, but it comes at a certain cost.
Yeah,
what is that cost?
There's two parts to AI. The first is to understand this from the lens of a national security perspective. We're reliant on American data centers to process all this information. So Canadians are dumping gobs and gobs and gobs of data into American data centers, and that's a security threat. If Donald Trump decides tomorrow to shut down Claude and shut down whatever other AI tools that are out there, it'll hold Canadians at a disadvantage. Just as an example, Microsoft is using their AI to stop 1.6 million hack attacks on everything from Canadian bank accounts to your Microsoft cloud accounts a day. So we need to have our own AI data centers here. Beyond that, AI data centers are critical to all the cancer research and everything that's happening. But in Canada, it's against the law to take healthcare information and have it stored outside our borders. So we need to have those AI data centers here to do whatever coding for cancer research that we need. So we need AI data center here. But here's the problem. Why are we building these AI data centers in our most expensive and precious land? Why are we building it in Mount Pleasant, and why are we building it downtown? These AI data centers should be built in rural areas closer to where the actual power, electricity, and water exists. My preference would be for those data centers to be built there, not here. Those lots of land in Mount Pleasant should be used for housing people in this housing crisis that we're facing.
Okay. The housing crisis, it leads to something very serious. You saw it right outside my door. We're here in the thick of downtown East Side, where the symptom of this housing malnutrition or just human connection leads to this drug crisis. The numbers, they point both ways. In 2024, crime fell 7.9%. Downtown East Side, violent crime dropped double digits under the task force barrage. Then violent crime all of a sudden jumped 12.3%. I don't know how this happens. I'm looking for answers. In the first quarter of this year alone, we saw an increase in uptick in all of this crime, violent crime. What is going on?
Yeah, it's a complex question. What's happening is the crime strategy the City of Vancouver is employing isn't working. The VPD under Ken Sim have focused at street-level crime, but they're not going after the Tony Soprano level of the crime chain. I'm talking about the worst criminals, and the worst criminals don't live in the downtown East Side. They live in penthouses in Cole Harbour, they live in penthouses in Yaletown, and they're renting out mansions on the West Side. They are money launderers, they are drug traffickers, and they're doing some of the worst things in terms of human trafficking and everything else. The response from policing needs to go after that top level. It's been too focused on the ground. We're not going to see progress until we shut down those avenues for money laundering. Criminals are criminals for one reason, and that's to make money. And the weak money laundering rules that we have here at the City of Vancouver, and the city does have some power to stop this, are enabling the crime.
You've spoken about this in the past. You said money laundering, and you've mentioned that a lot of it is due to cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Called me a caveman. What's going on?
Well, I was talking to some people in this neighborhood, and I said, why are there so many Bitcoin ATM machines here? And they're like, Kareem, it's not like the old days when you were a young person. Gangsters don't walk around with fat stacks of cash anymore. At the end of the shift, they take their cash and they put it in Bitcoin ATM machines. And that way, if they get arrested by the police, they go spend their 2 or 3 days in jail and come back out, they still have access to their money. It's easy for them to pay their suppliers without having to meet their suppliers. It's easy for them to kick out to their drug bosses without having to meet their drug bosses. So it's a way to move around money. You can go and invest in cryptocurrency if you want through your bank, and you'll get charged 0.5%. Why on God's green earth would anyone pay 15% fees at a Bitcoin ATM machine unless they were there to obscure it? But beyond that, it's also the currency exchanges that are happening. We've seen a massive proliferation of currency exchanges that are also using Bitcoin to launder large tracts of cash. We're seeing people walking in with duffel bags into these currency exchanges. That's what's enabling all the crime. If you shut down the proceeds of crime, criminals go away. So that's what's happening.
Who's benefiting from these fees?
Well, the VPD, there were 2 VPD reports, one in 2018 and one in 2019, that said that it was the drug cartels themselves that are running these cryptocurrency exchanges. One, to obscure proceeds of crime, but 2, they're also getting the fees from all the other. So they're double-ending the transactions, which is now against the law in real estate, but for Bitcoin, it's not. FINTRAC, FICOM have both issued reports concerned with this issue. The United Nations is directly tying the global expansion of the toxic drug crisis to Bitcoin ATMs and cryptocurrency. There's a UN report that I'm happy to share with you after this discussion that highlights the connectivity between cryptocurrency and toxic drugs. So we have the tools. The City of Vancouver can cease to issue any business permits for anyone who has any Bitcoin ATMs. But recently, because we've been hammering on this subject as Vancouver Liberals, the Prime Minister of Canada announced that he's going to be taking measures in the fall session to ban Bitcoin ATMs, so I'm very proud of that.
Okay, lovely, lovely. Just as you were speaking, it reminded me that actually Binance started here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then what happened is something that could have been monitored, could have been profitable to the Canadian economy, got shipped out.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with the brilliant minds who are coming up with good ideas here and they're flying away to Silicon Valley, or they're going elsewhere. They're going to find their way out. What can we do to incentivize these businesses, these tech hubs, to remain in Vancouver?
Yeah, the ones that are staying here because of the talent that's being produced at UBC, because of the talent that's being produced at SFU. A big part of why we have such a thriving video game industry here is because of our collection of artists. Vancouver has more artists per capita than anywhere else. I was doing a tour with Yaletown Video Game Company and asked them, why are you here? Like, you can pay less taxes in the United States. Oh, we're here because of your artist. So companies want to be here because of the talent that we have here. The issue is some of our federal tax laws aren't competitive with the federal tax laws that they have in the United States. The way we treat capital taxes here in Canada versus the United States is what's creating that big discrepancy. But we've also, here in Vancouver, we've become so reliant on such a few number of sectors to generate wealth that our investor class is actually not that familiar with technology. So accessing capital has been really hard here.
Okay. You're going to have to give me a second to absorb this while I drink a sip of water.
Let's do that.
You can take one too. It's right here on
Yes.
the outside.
Am I on this side? All right.
2 AI data center, Mount Pleasant. That's very interesting. We're walking into a very unsafe future.
There will be a lot of job losses and disruption as a result of AI.
100%. And
But there's also an opportunity there as well too. Just as much as we're concerned about being reliant on American AI, Poland, Denmark, other countries in the world are concerned about American AI. So the opportunity is if we do this in the right way, we can see those countries coming in and investing and purchasing Canadian AI services. So if we're nimble enough, this can actually be a job creator as well for us.
you did mention slightly that you wanted to put this far away and keep them in. And I'm very careful as to ruining someone else's backyard. But I'm going to talk about what's going on here in our backyards, the parks, the board and the machine. The park board saga in one act, the mayor campaigned to keep it, moved to abolish it 1 year later, lost 3 of his own commissioners over it. It's a mess. Clean it up. What's going on?
Yeah, so just on that first part about the AI data centers and why I want them to be in more rural areas. Site C Dam, it's in Fort St. John. And so we're building all that transmission line to bring all that electricity down to Vancouver. And there's line loss. As you move electricity over a distance, you lose power. Why don't we just build the AI data center where the power is being generated? It's better for the environment, it's better for the economy, and it's just more it's more efficient. So that's why I want to build it there. It's not because I want to make anyone's neighborhood
okay, so you don't want
less bad.
When you said power line, I'm thinking Coquitlam Dam here.
It's just more efficient for energy. So we need to think in terms of efficiency, and building them away from where the power is being generated is not efficient. But yes, one of the challenges on the question that you just asked is we've generally seen a lack of stability at the council table. And when you have erratic councils, you get erratic policy making. And we've not seen a stable council with Ken Sim. Kennedy Stewart struggled with the fact that he didn't have a majority. And as a result, we've fallen really behind as a city on some big initiatives. We need stability from this next council. We have a city that's accumulating debt in the form of deferred maintenance. Here's an example. Every year, the city of Vancouver is losing $500 million in deferred maintenance on the sewer and water system. We're not investing in that system. So over the course of 10 years, that's a $5 billion debt we're accumulating by not investing in our sewer and water system. Our sidewalks, just to get them up to a good level in the city, is $1.5 billion. Roads is even in worse shape. So for us, we need to start thinking about all these years of kicking the can down the road on making investments in upgrading our community centers and upgrading our swimming pools and upgrading our sewer and water pipe. They're catching up with us. And every time we kick the can, the cost always goes up. It never goes down.
And as the cost goes up, council ordered a 0% property tax increase, $120 million in cuts. A record number of residents spoke up against it. You run on a fiscal discipline. A 0% freeze discipline, is it a stunt? Like, where's the money? If we're always complaining about potholes, we got to pay for them somehow. Where is the money coming from?
Well, first of all, it was a sleight of hand. Ken didn't have a 0% tax increase this year. He actually increased utility fees, which is another part of your bill. So yes, property tax reform was 0%, but he increased utility fees by 10%. Then he went to business owners and increased permit fees right across. So Mr. Shawarma, shout out to Mr. Shawarma, my favorite.
You got the cheapest and the best shawarmas in town.
It's the best. It's the best shawarma.
They
It's my favorite
sponsor
shawarma.
this channel.
Yes, sponsor. Food truck permit fees have gone up from 1,900% in some parts of the city and 2,500%. So he's cranked up the permit fees. He's expanded parking and starting charging for parking fees for the first time ever at community centers and in front of beaches and in existing parking spots. He's cranked up the parking fees everywhere. The problem with putting parking meters in front of community centers means seniors might not be able to afford to go there anymore. Putting parking meters in front of beaches means kids might not be able to afford to go there anymore. So these are actually barriers to services that used to be free and accessible to people in the city, and to me, that's reprehensible. So he didn't actually cut taxes. He actually raised user fees, and there is a fundamental inequity in how he's raised those fees and how it's hurting the poorest, least and most disadvantaged people in the city.
I'm gonna go back to the question. How are we gonna do it then? Like I get it. We're blocking one way. We're trying. I'm just as confused as anyone. I believe we need change, but where's the money?
So Vancouver has a few unique tools available to it. One of the things that Vancouver has, because it's regulated with the Vancouver Charter, every other city in the province of British Columbia is regulated by the BC Municipalities Act. One of the things that Vancouver can do that no other city can do is we get to issue bonds. And Vancouver has a AAA credit rating. So if I can issue a bond that triggers $1 million of new interest payments, but it saves me $1.5 million in operating costs, that's a good bond to issue. A new community center is cheaper to run than an old one. A new swimming pool is cheaper to run than an old one. So we can actually use this tool to drive down our operating cost and create some fiscal capacity for ourselves. Here's another idea. If we make a decision today as a city that we will never build another swimming pool without having it right next to a skating rink, we get free heat energy for that swimming pool by the refrigerator coils from that ice rink. So we can build faster, we can build smarter, we can build cheaper, and we can use the tools available to us without really having to go out to the public who's already strapped in a very challenging economy to free up some of that capacity to do some of the things that we've talked about.
Speaking of recreation, I'm a big football player. I'm not the best, but I love
football, soccer.
The one that this is my foot, and usually there's a ball that kicks it.
Sounds good.
But the FIFA World Cup just wrapped up.
Okay, this is a sore subject for me. I just got to say at this point, like I'm still not over the Egypt-Argentina match. So you're catching me in a weak moment now.
Oh man. The city needs you to step up. Hosting estimates ballooned from $230 million to as much as double, $624 million. The Hastings Amphitheater, rain's coming from the side. I get we're coming from the top, but it's coming in from the side. The wind's still strong. Wintertime, I wonder what's the point. $183 million. The mayor's claim is that the city is only on the hook for 5, and it got fact-checked. It's not only on 5. Was it worth it? Are we really going to do this? 163 million, 83 million if I may. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. So first of all, that's the estimates. We don't have a final tally yet. I expect that number to go up. On the amphitheater, that cost $180 million. It was originally supposed to cost $60 million, and under Ken Sim, the project tripled in cost. The project ran way over budget.
What causes these price inflation? I'm genuinely bamboozled when I hear something that goes up triple in price in the millions.
Yeah, for me, we need an audit from the Auditor General's office to look at exactly what happened in that specific case. But we're seeing projects all over the Lower Mainland, everything from the Massey Tunnel to the North Vancouver wastewater treatment facility go over budget. We've lost a sense of our ability to maintain scope on these projects and the discipline to stay within the envelope of budgets. Maybe we need to bring back fixed price contracting into our model. But going back to FIFA, look, I'm a Vancouverite. I was proud to see how happy the city was. I got caught up in all the great energy. You can bet against Ken Sim, but you can't bet against Vancouverites from really, really uplifting the city. Was it worth it? I think time will tell. But by all accounts, our hotel industry didn't benefit from this. Not all businesses benefited equally from FIFA. I've been talking to dry cleaners and florist shops that, yeah, we had these tourists come in, but they don't. Tourists don't really buy dry cleaning and florists. So there was an inequity in terms of who benefited from FIFA. I think it's important for the mayor of Vancouver to be a champion for the city and to promote the city, but at the cost of whatever this ends up costing, $1 billion, let's say at the end. There might have been other ways that we could have been more thoughtful about how to promote the city of Vancouver.
With certain budgets going up, certain budgets going down, a real question is there's a finite amount of money. You're going to have to cut some, and you're going to have to grow some budgets.
Yeah.
What are you planning on cutting, and what are you planning on growing?
Well, I think one of the things that's really, really missing from our budgetary strategy is understanding this one thing. The inflation rate in the economy, and I'm going to get a little geeky here, the inflation rate for our economy is about 2.8% right now. The internal inflation rate of the city of Vancouver ranges between 8.5% and 11%. Mm-hmm. So that means every year we're actually not raising property taxes by 8.5% to 11%. We're actually seeing service cuts. We've got to get a handle on the internal inflation rate. So from all my time in government, working in different ministries, advising different ministers, those excellent, exceptional civil servants in Ottawa and Victoria, the thing that they're most focused on is controlling their internal inflation rate. Our internal inflation rate is high because our entire infrastructure system is old. So we need to massively accelerate the amount of capital that we are deploying to reduce our operating costs to get that internal inflation rate down. So it's a question of prioritization for me. There are two kinds of capital projects. The capital projects that you build that reduce your operating costs, and the capital projects that you build that increase your operating costs. We need to reprioritize that deployment of capital to make sure that we're driving down that internal inflation rate.
Okay, give me a second to really, because I want to take this with intention. So, where does the money then get cut? It has to. We have to.
It's not necessarily about cuts. It's about priorities. Mm-hmm. So, if the city's budget, so the day Ken Sim got elected, the city budget was $1.7 billion. Today it's about 2.5. Mm-hmm. So he's increased spending by $800 million a year, and that's primarily been funded through a massive increase in property taxes. So you ask, where has all that money gone? We haven't seen an $800 or $700 million a year improvement in services or in just the general appearance of the city. And it's because it's all being eaten up by inflation. It's because every mayor for the last decade has been kicking the can down the road on these capital improvements. So for me, my priority is to put the capital budget, which is $800 million a year. Let's prioritize that on the things that's going to decrease our operating costs the most.
Kareem, I'll tell you where some of the places the capital is being cut, and we noticed this. It's in community programs.
It's all in community programs.
Indigenous communities, unfortunately, have been disrespected, to say the least, and the cuts that have been going to their programs have been cut. We see an unequal, a disproportionate rate of mistreatment by the police towards the Indigenous people. We see a rise in anti-Semitism and definitely xenophobia and Islamophobia. This is something that hits close to home for me and a lot of the people in this room. We wonder, this culture that Vancouver is building of this, close your doors, have your stoic face, what are some ways we can address this? And throwing money at the table sometimes helps, but how can we direct this money forward?
Yeah, so just on the policing aspect of the budget, we've seen a 43% increase in the police budget under Ken Sim's time. In 2010, the police budget was $193 million for 1,400 police officers. Today, it's $497 million for 1,400 police officers. Where did all the money go? The city of Vancouver doesn't have the power to audit the police budget. Maybe the money's being spent wisely, maybe it's not, but we have no visibility and no transparency. And you quoted some crime statistics earlier. Some areas of crime have gotten better, some have gotten worse, but the things that are not really getting the media attention, the things that need more attention, We've seen dramatic increases in intimate partner violence. We've seen dramatic increases in Islamophobia. We've seen dramatic increases in anti-Asian hate and anti-Semitism. So without that visibility on that police budget, we're not sure if they're taking the things that I care about in terms of public safety, intimate partner violence and the rise in hate crimes, seriously. I don't know if they're spending enough money and enough time combating those issues. I think we get that transparency. I think we can now have a debate. But without that transparency on that budget, it's very, very difficult to do that work. But beyond that, again, without that transparency, it's very hard for us to go out and say, hey, maybe we should carve out a little bit of this police budget to go work with Indigenous communities, to work on Indigenous restorative justice programs, and work with MST and urban Indigenous leadership to find new creative ways for how we can make this neighborhood and all the neighborhoods in the city safer with their values, with their culture, and with their insights and lived experience.
I know this well. The Sikh community rolls up their sleeves, is serving downtown East Side. They're doing it out of their own pockets. We know that the Muslim Food Bank also is serving. They're looking for community supporters. They're looking for donors. What can we do to make their life a little bit easier? I understand that where money is short, but these are the ones that are actually fighting the good fight. In order to build culture, it doesn't come from City Hall, as you know. It requires an interrelationship. And how can we nurture this? What can a mayor really do to nurture relationships between communities?
Yeah, so first of all, just on food banks, it's been a real big issue for me in my campaign. Vancouver, to the best of my knowledge, is the only jurisdiction in Western Canada that charges property taxes for food banks. I'm getting rid of property taxes for food banks. It's outrageous to me that we charge, like in Lethbridge, Alberta, they do not charge property taxes for food banks.
I came to Canada and I remember eating at the food banks. So we need to do this.
We need to do this, and the purchasing power of a food bank far outweighs what my ability or what anyone's ability to do. So if you're able to save $1 million of cost on food bank, that might actually lead to $3 or $4 million of service delivery. But going back to just some of the challenges that we're having here in the downtown East Side, a lot of people in this neighborhood are suffering because they experienced trauma at some point in their life. And we're talking significant trauma. About 40% of the population in the downtown East Side are Indigenous. About 10% of the population are Canadian Armed Forces veterans, the bulk of which served in Afghanistan and would have experienced physical trauma in the course of their service. There's another 5 or 6% police officers, firemen that got injured on the job. Another 10 or 15% construction workers that got injured on the job. We're seeing a dramatic increase in youth. So these are children who lost their parents that have been bouncing around from foster home to foster home. That at the age of 18 don't have maybe the tools to take care of themselves. And Ministry of Children and Family Development is putting in more services to help these young people, till their mid-20s, but the supports there are way too low, and so we're seeing a lot of bad outcomes. The two fastest areas of growth in the population in the downtown East Side, women escaping gender-based violence, and then the other group are seniors. These are all areas that the federal government, the provincial government are responsible for. Indigenous Services Canada's budget annually is $26.2 billion a year. If I get elected as mayor, my budget's $2.4 billion. I don't have the capacity to solve some of the systemic issues that Indigenous people are facing, but I can be a good advocate for them. One of the problems that we're having in this neighborhood is that as a country, we've built all our systems of support an inch from the ground. So if you're a senior that's $150 short from making rent, give them the $150 to make rent. You keep them in community, it's a better outcome, and you actually save money. No, we don't do that in Canada. We allow you to fall an inch from the ground, and at that point, you're being picked up by a social worker as you're just about to be homeless as a senior, and it costs us between $70,000 and $100,000 a year to deal with the problem then. So it's actually the conservative position, it's also the progressive position to help build some of those supports, not from the ground, but build them up at a little bit higher of a level. That's where we're falling apart as a system, is our supports for almost every aspect of healthcare, education, is built right at the end. We need to build these supports up at a higher level.
As I tried to put my head around all of what's happening with the youth and the seniors who are receiving this government support, it's a tough reality to see that I don't really think people are prioritizing living space with the money that they receive. And I'm not trying to, play the conservative role or the liberal role. And I do understand that money in people's pockets could help them out. But at times we see that this is being abused. I see peers my age walking in the streets, and I'm sure they have certain supports. But the reality is that they're looking for a dollar. What is going on? How can we address the root of what's going on in downtown East Side, the drug crisis?
Yeah, the drug crisis is the main issue that is hurting this neighborhood. And the toxicity of the drugs is at a level that has never been experienced.
In the past 6 months, I myself had to administer
naloxone.
Yeah, naloxone. I have it right upstairs. 3 people that I had to wake up on the side of the street because they were falling down. And I am just a high school teacher, not a paramedic. Yeah. We need to address this.
Yeah, I served on the board of directors of the Downtown Eastside Overdose Prevention Society, and I got to see a lot of these challenges up close. First of all, healthcare doesn't have a handle on this situation. Beyond the level of toxicity of drugs, the drug supply here in the Downtown East Side is changing on a weekly basis. So by the time you've administered that naloxone on that person and they get taken to a hospital, the doctors actually don't know what they're dealing with in terms of what the patient may or may not have consumed. So they might not have an idea of the challenges. But we're also now starting to see this challenge where you're starting to see fentanyl and benzodiazepines and a whole range of other drugs being mixed in with each other. So a person that might be addicted to fentanyl might also be addicted to meth at the same time. So the complexity of dealing with the healthcare challenge and helping people through recovery is becoming more complex. Over time, it's not becoming easier. Every person that I've ever talked to who has recovered has told me one thing. It was an individual, it was an exceptional individual who showed them care that helped them get through that point of recovery. It was an exceptional doctor that took the time with them to walk them through the system from all the levels of getting them from detox, to getting them to housing, to getting them stabilized with a job. The problem that we've got system-wide here is we're trying to deal with the issue of the Downtown East Side programmatically and systematically. The only way we're going to make progress is if we deal with this issue on an individual by individual basis. And
we saw Ken Sims, decriminalize a certain amount of drugs, and we saw a person literally driving around in a drug van. He himself ended up overdosing. We need to be a little bit stronger on the people who are making this accessible to people, and we need to be a little bit softer on the users who are going through the symptoms of something much greater, addictions.
Individuals need individualized care to recover, and the police at all levels of government, and this is not just the VPD, the CBSA, the Coast Guard, FinTrack, CSIS, all the levels of policing agencies need to start putting pressure on the drug kingpins, the Tony Soprano level. Those are the guys that are making decisions on how the drug supply is filtering through, and they don't care. They just want to make money, and we need to go after the perpetrators of these crimes in a more holistic and thoughtful and strategic way. But we can't just keep ignoring the Tony Sopranos and just expect that by arresting people at the street level that we're going to make a dent in this problem. It's not going to work.
Fortunately, it's not all bleak, and we have individuals in this room who care passionately about the future of Vancouver. And I do believe there might be some people in this room who have a couple of questions, if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
Let's start with the first hand that was raised up right here onto my right. Please introduce yourself, and here's a mic. You just right there. There you go. There you are.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, Kareem. We've met before. My name is Zul Soliman. I'm the executive director of StopIslamophobia.ca. It's a campaign to stop Islamophobia. I wanted to ask you 2 sets of questions. One set is a bit personal, and you don't need to answer. The second set is much more public. The first set of questions are, do you identify as a Muslim? And why should Muslims vote for you in this municipal election?
That's the first question. What's the second
That's
question?
the first set.
Yeah. What's the second one?
The second set of questions are around Islamophobia. You were deeply involved in the Ken Sim government, I think, when the IHRA definition was passed. And what I would like to know is if you're elected as mayor, do you promise as a part of your election platform in the first year of being mayor to pass a resolution around Islamophobia and engage with community groups to fight Islamophobia in a fully funded, transparent plan, and then, put it out to the public to respond to it? Those are the two sets of questions.
Thank you. Yeah, I do identify as a Muslim. I don't think that I'm the best example of a Muslim at times. One of the things that I've really struggled and wrestled with a lot on this campaign, and I'm going to get a little personal, there hasn't been a day on this campaign where I haven't been called a jihadi, a camel jockey, a sand N-word. You're going to bring in Sharia law, and it's constant and it's persistent, and it's been really, really hurtful that not a single person in this entire country from any Muslim community has ever come up and said this is unacceptable, that this is happening to Kareem. I've seen zero allyship from any Muslims in this country, and the daily abuse that I've taken for the last 400 days is unacceptable. It would be unacceptable to be called the things that I've been called to any other community. So this is a direct appeal to all of you, that if they're doing this to me, what are they going to do to you? With regards to IRA, I will not be revoking IRA. I support the IRA definition, but I want to bring in an equivalent policy as well to fight back against Islamophobia.
So just to be clear, because I lost the earlier part of the recording, you are identifying as a Muslim, and you would like Muslims to vote for you, and you're committing to putting forward an Islamophobia plan in the first year of your government if you're elected as mayor. Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've been subjected to Islamophobia yourself?
Persistently. You just have to go through my Twitter account or Facebook page to see it.
Do you view just one last thing. In terms of social media, there's been a lot of information, disinformation, and Islamophobia on social media. Are you finding yourself subjected to that a great deal in your campaign?
Yeah, in some of the most horrific ways. Again, I'm frustrated that I've had to have this fight on my own, but I will continue to persevere. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Kareem, I find it offensive. I'm here right here, man. I got you. Don't say that, man. You got us. And I do hear you. It's a time, and I think this is a Vancouver issue. I don't think this is specifically. We seldom, stand up for one another unless it's directly in front of us and we do something about it. A lot of this hate, it festers in the corners and in these online spaces and these echo chambers of hate, if I may. Seldom do you find the confidence to approach you in person and say something like this. Digital safety is very important. What are we going to do to protect the online ecospheres of hate, whether it be towards the Indigenous communities, as we see from our Canadians towards our Canadians, as we see towards the Jewish communities with anti-Semitism, and of course, something gets close to home. I also get called a lot of these things on my YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook pages. What can we do for digital safety?
Yeah, I think that the province, Minister Sharma is taking some steps in terms of putting together some thought around some legislation to combat this, but the anonymity behind some of the accounts is definitely becoming a problem, and I think at a federal level it needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. But it's a solidarity with one another that's important. Some of those who have been the most supportive of me and checking in, hey, are you okay? I just saw this got said about you. Are friends of mine in the Jewish community. Mm-hmm. They've been dealing with a massive rise in anti-Semitism as well too. But I think it's that solidarity. I think it's that knowledge sharing between faiths that occurs. I think it's that collective work with the Chinese community, with Sikhs, with Hindus, to build up those programs and those bodies of knowledge to make sure that the VPD and the RCMP and the other police agencies are resourcing up and understanding that the hate crimes that are occurring, yes, some of them are happening in real life, but the space and energy being created for it is online, and we need to beef up what we're doing online in terms of policing.
We have another question from the. Okay.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to come to the office. I just had two questions on behalf of the property development community. The first question, I believe these may have been touched on a little bit already, but first one is, do you believe lowering development fees and reducing regulatory barriers would help bring down rental and lease costs and make Vancouver more attractive for investors?
The answer is 100% yes. I do think that the Vancouver Building Code is the biggest regulatory barrier that there is, and it should be removed. In terms of reducing development fees, that's a conversation that needs to happen at 3 levels of government. We've seen the federal government recently announce a package of dollars for municipalities to be able to access to help reduce those development cost charges. But we have a problem in Vancouver that, for example, Surrey doesn't. Parts of our sewer and water system are 100 years old. Surrey's, everything's like brand new. It's 20 years old, and it was built for size. We have 115 kilometers of water pipe here in the city of Vancouver that is over 100 years old, and that number grows every year. So the city is not in a strong enough financial situation right now to walk away from the DCCs without some help from the federal government to get us caught up. But I 100% agree. We need to reduce regulatory barriers, but we need to work with other levels to get our infrastructure up.
Sorry, the second question was, do you think City Hall has become too large or is taking on too much?
Yes. Scope creep is, the city's gotten involved in way too many things. It's going to take a really deft touch and a lot of thought to really sort of figure out how do we get back to a city hall that's prioritizing not only just core services for the city, but the services that really matter to the people of this city and deliver them at an exceptional level. When I was younger, my family was going through a difficult financial time during both the 1980s and 1990s recessions. But I had no idea we were going through tough financial times because my life was rich. We had access to Kids Pool, we had access to the beaches, we had access to all these parks. Young kids today don't have access to the same levels of services that I did. And they don't have those tools to overcome that perception that they are poor or less than. So for me, I want to deliver those basic services at an exceptional level, just like we did when I was growing up.
I had a question right here. If I may give you this. Thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Rafika. I work and my question is going to be in the hospital area.
Okay.
So I do live in Vancouver, but I work in Fraser Health because the
So did I.
opportunities, really?
Yes.
Opportunities are not that abundant. But my question is that do you feel that, what's the problem with the, like in terms of services, are the hospitals enough for everybody to get like good service? Like we didn't touch base on that. And like in the hospital that I work in, there is this overdose protection clinic that runs every day of the week. And I believe this is a lot of money. Can we do something else to like maybe rehabilitate them or do something better like in terms of spending that much money on this? Thank you.
Yeah, most of what happens with hospitals is really at a provincial level, so there's not much as mayor that I have control over. I did work at Fraser Health, and then I sat on the board of directors of the Fraser Health Authority. And again, the challenge there is very similar to the city of Vancouver's. It's internal inflation rate. One of the unique hallmarks of healthcare is that technology normally decreases the cost of things. In healthcare, it's the opposite. So we used to, maybe have a 75-cent pill, and that was the best pill for heart medication. And then all of a sudden, there's a new drug that comes out, but it's $500 a pill. And everybody now wants for their mother and their father the $500 pill. So the costs dramatically escalate. We used to only have X-ray machines, but now everyone wants MRIs and CT scans. So over the course of time, the pressure on healthcare is the inflation for services exceeds at a very rapid pace. And the healthcare system hasn't been able to keep up. So going back to you, part of the reason why we're struggling in being able to maintain a strong healthcare system is because we're not generating wealth. And when you generate wealth, you generate more tax dollars. When you generate more tax dollars, you can put more money towards healthcare. In terms of the supervised consumption sites, again, we're not really going to see progress in the lives of individuals without taking an individual approach to their own healthcare plans. The systemic approach, the programmatic approach, it doesn't work. You're often dealing with patients and clients going through the healthcare system that have multiple comorbidities. They might be suffering from hepatitis, a meth addiction, a fentanyl addiction. They might have diabetes. You're dealing with multiple issues. So unless you have a doctor or a clinician that is able to deal with all those same things at one time, you're not going to necessarily see progress. If you're suffering from pain because of an amputation that you just had and you're not dealing with that pain, guess what's going to happen? That person's going to go back on fentanyl to deal with their pain again. So again, you need an individual who can navigate through, because every individual's experience and every individual's healthcare needs are so different than the next. So we tend to look at the drug-using population as one single group, but when you start to dig into each individual case, you start to realize how different each person's circumstances are.
Thank you. I think we have time for 2 more questions. You had your hand up, and then I'll come straight to you.
Thank you, Kareem, for your time. I think firstly, I got to say, especially on the Islamophobia piece, as somebody who's ran for politics and has experienced that, I want you to, ensure that at least within this community that you're heard, and we know that, what that experience is like, and we're definitely, 100% supportive of you in that case. My name is Suraj. I work in real estate operations here in downtown Vancouver. I got 2 questions. My first question is, what are some strategies you think you're going to take for kind of your smaller to mid-sized real estate developers? We've seen in the past in Vancouver, not so much anymore, because I work with a lot of these developers on a day-to-day basis, is probably in Western Canada, Vancouver is probably the lowest tier in terms of places where your doctors, your engineers, your professionals who have made their money and want to grow that wealth. Very rarely are they going to invest in Vancouver, but in the past it used to be the case where so many of the multifamilies, the old aging multifamilies that we have in the city, were built by your doctors, your lawyers, your professionals that have grown. So I'm curious if you have any strategies or any ideas on how you're going to bring in that capital from not just the larger kind of those major corporations, but rather kind of the smaller, more localized who wants to make their money in Vancouver.
Yeah, so I've run campaigns in Richmond and Surrey and Langley, and I've had an opportunity to meet smaller builders throughout my career. And as I've been on this journey running for mayor of Vancouver, I asked them, why aren't you coming to Vancouver to build? Like, why aren't you investing your time and effort to come here to the city of Vancouver? And they're telling me the 2 things that I've been talking about since the beginning. Number 1, I don't understand your building code. It's a barrier to entry, and it's an artificial barrier to entry. I can learn the Vancouver building code and gain access to a market of 700,000 people, or I can learn the Alberta building code and gain access to a market of 4 million people. Where do you think the best return on my time is going to be? One of the things that's happened with that complexity of the Vancouver building code is you effectively need to be a billionaire to build in Vancouver because of how complex everything is. And billionaire includes billionaire companies, but also billion-dollar ministries like BC Housing. So you need a tremendous amount of sophistication to be able to navigate through that code, but it's also blocking out other builders. The second thing is it's just their access to capital. When it takes that, like when we're the slowest place on planet Earth in approving housing, their rate of return is much faster in Surrey, in Richmond, in Burnaby. So getting those approval times by getting it all approved in one department rather than having those 12 departments that all have a veto on your project, I think will encourage them to come back.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And yeah, sure.
Good dovetail to everything. I was a refugee settlement worker or housing search worker. I can tell you it's a difficult job. The federal government says, okay, come to Canada, and then where are they going to stay, right? A lot of them come with large families. So finding housing for them is very difficult, and often they had to stay in like homeless shelters and so on. So there's no specific refugee housing or shelters. And finding housing for them is very difficult. Here's a question that could possibly be a solution. What kind of incentives can you give as a city to landowners who will rent to refugees?
Yeah, I think a great question. First of all, the biggest problem we've got right now is Ken Sims put a ban on supportive housing. And it's putting all kinds of pressure on all the other below market housing units here in the city, and it's having a knock-on effect on impacting housing for refugees. Really, at the end of the day, there's a partnership to be had with the city and the federal government and the province to some extent on this. The city does have a bank of land. Ken Sim wants to create an economic development corporation and build market housing with that land. My belief is that we should be using public lands for public good. That public land should be used for not-for-profit housing, should be used for supportive housing, should be used for housing for refugees. It should be used for creating more parks, more community centers. I do not believe that the current strategy with this city council to take that private land and turn it into for-profit lands, I think it's going to take us in the wrong direction. And once you sell that land, you never get it back.
I think we're just going to wrap it up, and then you're not running away.
Nope.
These guys, I think is it more of a private question? Can we hold it for session? Let's hold it. Let's hold it, because I want to be respectful of. He's still around. He's not running.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yes.
Just quickly here,
Okay.
on the building code, did you get the engineering opinion? Why you have that to meet in Vancouver?
Yeah, like the building code is thousands of pages long. The tallest and most complex buildings in British Columbia now are not being built in Vancouver. They're being built in Burnaby and Surrey with the BC Building Code. So I'll get rid of the Vancouver Building Code and just replace it with the BC Building Code. We're seeing things that don't make sense anymore. For example, no more exposed concrete slab balconies. We have to insulate the outdoor balconies now because there's a 0.5% heat loss as a result of this code. And so it's adding $16,000 per unit to insulate the balconies. So guess what's happening? Developers, even not-for-profit home builders, are building homes without balconies. So we're making the housing less livable as a result of the code. There was an argument that protecting the Vancouver Building Code, it had a higher environmental standard than the rest of the BC Building Code. But as the province has now introduced the STEP program, by the time you get to Step 4 and Step 5, and I think Vancouver is now only approving projects Step 4, Step 5 is net zero, there's no benefit, incremental benefit anymore as a result of the Vancouver Building Code because of the provincial STEP code. So it's now become redundant from an environmental perspective. And when I do say I'm going to get rid of the Vancouver Building, there's some parts of it I'm going to keep, like the heritage aspects of the Vancouver Building Code are worth keeping. So like we're not going to get rid of all of it, but the bulk of it is redundant in my mind.
Year one is going to be hopefully October 17th, hopefully for you. I'm sure that's what you're looking at. But I want to see a better city. So what are 3 commitments that you're willing to make for year one here in Vancouver?
Wow. Well, the first thing we've got to do is we've got to get a real good handle on the real actual what's going on with the finances of the city. And we're lucky because come October, come November, we're into budget season. So we'll get all those briefings right away. But the first thing is we've got to reorient our relationship with the province and the federal government. We're not going to make major leaps and bounds of progress until that relationship gets better. And we've seen Ken's relationship with both levels of government get worse. I need to be very clear with the Premier and the province about my top priority, which is getting that SkyTrain line built to UBC. You want my help on your things? I need my help on my things. So for me, I want to see some measurable progress on that UBC SkyTrain line. Number 2, frontline services. On day 1 of the Vancouver Liberal government, we're requisitioning for 400 frontline workers to enhance our community centers, parks, street cleaning, garbage pickup, pothole remediation. This, I think, over the course of time, will be an investment that will help to reduce the overall costs that we've been kicking the can on down the road for years. Third one is really starting to dig into working with the VPD in a constructive way to get some visibility on their budget, and to start really promoting what I think are the priorities around public safety that really need to be addressed.
Okay. Thank you, Kareem, for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Stay right there. Hold up.